Radha Yuktascha Kamadi Tarangamaje Kripamayi Twang Saranang Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanara Vindam Kanaka Jaladagatro Nila Sobhagya Netro Rigumara Balu Malate Kondamalo Tangana Taruna Vesho Nilampitam Baresho Smaraneni Britni Kunjera Rika Krishna Chandro Panchakalpaturubhyascha Kripashinduvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Boy, Dhanyavad Pranam devotees. Arati Sri Ram Mainji ki Kireta Kali Lalit Siyapi ki Gavata Brahmadit Muni Narada Valmiki Vigyan Vishashara Shukha Shanakayadi Seshora Sharat Pani Pavan Suta Kirtini ki Arati Sri Ram Mainji ki Kireta Kali Siyapi ki. This prayer is actually from the Arati that's done for the reciting of Ramayana. I learned it many, many years ago when I was preaching in Zambia. There was one sadhu, his name is Murari Bapu, and he came to visit the temple that was there in Kitwe, where I was preaching. And the community had the devotees escort him to the pandal where he would be speaking to 10,000 people. So this is a very small town, but people come from all over. And he does not take any food or drink, only, I think, he takes milk, I think, and roti or something for 9 days in a row as he speaks the Ramayana Katha. It was very, very beautiful. And when I heard the arti of the Ramayana, this is only part of it, I asked if I could get the words and could learn. And they accommodated me by doing so. So for many years, sometime before I recite Ramayana, just as in summary form, because obviously Ramayana is very long, I usually recite this prayer in order to gather some inspiration. So of course the reason is because today is Ram Navami. Ram Navami means Ram Navami, means the 9th day. So today is the day not only Sri Ramachandra, who is the first and primary incarnation in the order of the incarnations of Sri Krishna. It doesn't mean that he came sort of the first incarnation, but in terms of the status of Ram, there are 3 primary incarnations of Krishna. Well, 2 primary incarnations. One is Narasinghadev and one is Sri Ramachandra. So this is mentioned in Lagu Bhagavatamrita, Narasingha Rameshu Krishneshu Asad Aishwarya Purna. It means that the fullness of the manifestation of Bhagavan is in these 3 avatars, Narasinghadev, Sri Ramachandra, and in Sri Krishna. Similarly, in Brahma Samhita, it's mentioned there also, Ramadi Murteshu Kala Niyamena Tishtan, that Sri Ram is the head of all the different incarnations of Sri Krishna. So Ram Navami is not only the day that Ram appeared in the world, but is also the day in the Ramayana for which he was banished to the forest, and it is the day that he returns to Ayodhya. So all 3 events happen on the same day in different periods of time. So the Ramayana is also very, very beautiful narration. It comprises one of 2 main sastras, which are histories. They're called itihasas. So the way that the Vedic literature is written is that you have 4 Vedas. So the 4 Vedas, really there's 3 Vedas in one summary. So Rig Veda, Sama Veda, and Yajur Veda are the 3 Vedas. And then the Atharva Veda is a summary of those first 3. Those Vedas are broken down into 4 sections. They're called Brahmins, Aranyakyas, Samhitas, and Upanishads. So each Veda is broken down into those sections. Then you have the Itihasas. Somebody's got to mute. I think somebody has their mic open, maybe accidentally. Hopefully that's not me. Okay, so there are 2 itihasas or histories. And as I mentioned, the word itihasa means iti-ahasa. It means something that's written exactly as it happened. So there are 2. One is the Mahabharata, written by Vyasadeva, contains 100,000 verses divided into 18 parvas or sections. And then you have the Ramayana of Sri Valmiki Ji, which was written in 24,000 verses and in 7 sections. It is called Balakan, Ayodhyakan, Aranyakan, Kishkindakan, Sundarakan, Yudakan, and Uttarakan. So these khans are different sections denoting different periods in the life of Sri Ram. The interesting part about this is that the history of Valmiki is very interesting. There are different narratives that are given because there are many versions of Ramayana right now. In fact, I remember once asking my Gurudev about a particular narrative, which will come up later on in the story, and where I would find it, because I was mentioning that what I had seen in Valmiki's Ramayana, the normal Sanskrit to English translation, I had not seen it. And Gurudev said there's so many different versions of Ramayana. And many of the versions of Ramayana are also due to the epiphanies that take place in those sadhus that wrote it. So then his sevak, Pujapad Madhav Maharaj, said that particular narrative is told in the Dakshin Ramayana. So Dakshin Ramayana means the Ramayana in South India. But that's a sort of broad-based discussion because there's many different Ramayans in South India, like Uttarama Charit of Baba Bhuti with the commentary of Govindaraj. There's Kamban Ramayana. Then there's like a summary of Ramayana given by Vedanta Desika, right? These are all great sadhus of South India. So there's so many different versions there. Mahabharata is similar. We normally think of Mahabharata only as what it is that was written by Vyasadeva, but actually there's Mahabharata that's also written in other places. Like one very famous version is in Orissa. And that has many pastimes there that aren't in the Mahabharata written by Vyasadeva. So Valmiki's history is very, very interesting. As I mentioned, there's many places where it's discussed, Skanda Puranam, other Purans as well. But in short, there are 3 names which are given, that he was the son of a Brahmin family coming in the Bhrigu Gotra. Bhrigu Gotra means a very established Brahmin family. And that his name was, what is it? Jahanga. So this is one name that's given for Valmiki. Another name is Harit. And of course, one name is also Ratnakar. Now, some say that the original name that was given, Jangaha, was he was born in a royal family. And that as he was, some people say he was cursed by the 4 Kumaras. And it's because when the 4 Kumaras came to visit Varuna Dev, then Harit was in the audience there, and he began imitating the sounds of different birds. So the 4 Kumaras, in order to teach a lesson, that when there is a discussion between very highly elevated persons, that children should be very mild. So they gave a curse, technically, to Harit, that he should then go and live among the animals. So I had to look up in Sanskrit the meaning of the word Harit and reconcile why the name Ratnakara was used. Well, the word Harit means like an emerald color, like a goldish green color. And sometimes it's looked at as the color of the forest. Well, Ratnakara also means a jewel. So in this case, it referred to the features of Harit or Valmiki before he became Valmiki, which was a beautiful gem-like color and a greenish sort of yellowish color. So he was called Harit for that, and also Ratnakar. So when he went to live among the forest dwellers, he was called Ratnakar, and obviously both those names were descriptive of his physical characteristics. But he became married to a family, and that family also was part of the hunter community and so forth and so on. But at a certain period, a great drought came. And when that drought came, Ratnakar was unable to make a living simply by hunting as he had been doing, hunting and trapping. So unfortunately, in desperate times, he turned to desperate measures and he became a dacoit. Dacoit means like a robber or a thief. So he committed many robberies, and by this, over the course of years, he was maintaining his family. So then once the Saptarishis headed by Narada Muni, sometimes it's described only Narada Muni was there, but in other Puranas it describes the Saptarishis headed by Narada Rishi. They came through that exact place where Ratnakar was. He hid out in the bushes, and as soon as the Saptarishis approached, he jumped out and he announced that it was a robbery. So the Saptarishis, they're also highly potent sages. They could have easily simply dismissed Ratnakar, but it's also the nature of sadhus to be very merciful. So seeing his condition, Narada Muni took mercy on him and said, the things that you're doing are extremely sinful. Your previous life as a hunter also has some sinful connotation to it, but some people, according to their category and their status in life, have to do certain jobs. So even though that was somewhat sinful, you would not be so-called.
We can't hear you, Gurudev.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So they said, even though that was sinful, now you've turned to the most sinful life, which is the robbing and pillaging of others. So he told, you should give me all of your wealth. So the Saptarishi said, what wealth does a simple band of sadhus have? You can see we're very dressed in a simple way, and the only thing we're carrying is a danda for some and a kamandalu. Kamandalu means like a water pot, because the sages used to carry a kamandalu in order to do their ablutions and and everything, to do prayers and so many different things, right? And sometimes when people would give donations, they would put their donations in the kamandalu. So said, well, we don't have any wealth or anything. So then Ratnakar told, no, must be that you're great sadhus, and as you travel from place to place, many people will give you wealth. Great king, so many people, so I don't believe you. So now the second offense has been committed. The nature of a sadhu is that they should be satyavrat, means they should always tell the truth. So now Ratnakar not only captured the Saptarishis to rob them, but now he accused them of being a liar. So then the Saptarishis told, listen, Ratnakar, what you're doing is extremely sinful, but I have a question for you. You only do this for the sake of your family. So my curiosity, would your family take the results of this sinful activity? Because everything you do has karma. So will your family be willing to accept that you're performing? So Ratnakar was a little stunned, but he said, of course. My wife, my children, my in-laws, and my own parents, they love me so much. I go out every day and risk my life only for their welfare. Of course they would accept. So the Saptarishi said, we grant you that we will remain in this very place, and we want you to go back and inquire from them. So then a third offense is committed, because then Ratnakar says, I don't trust that you're not trying to trick me. So I'm going to bind you to a tree to make sure that you're here when I come back. So now a third offense is committed. So the sages allow themselves to be bound because, of course, they have the power. They have so many mystic cities. They have no reason to allow themselves to be bound, but simply to help this Ratnakar, to show their mercy. And this is an upakyan, means a teaching, that sometimes sadhus are so merciful, they accept inconvenience on behalf of helping others. So Ratnakar bound the Saptarishis to one tree, and he went back to his home place, and he immediately ran to his in-laws. And he told, oh, my dear father and mother-in-law, for so many years, in order to take care of your daughter, and also now to take care of you, because you've come to live with us in our old age, you know that the situation in our place is that there's been famine and drought. Being unable to do my normal duties, for years now, I've had to take up the occupation of a daikwe. And obviously, according to Dharma, there's so much sin which is accumulated by these activities. But I am fully convinced that out of your love and affection for me, you will take part of these sinful actions so that my own next life will not be so burdened by this kind of karma. So the in-laws replied, listen, my son-in-law, we gave you our daughter, the most cherished thing that we have, the most cherished possession. We gave our daughter to you. In our old age, we came to live with you after maintaining her for her whole life. And now in our elderly age, we have simply come to live with you, that you should be grateful, having given our daughter to you, that you would render service to us. Now in our old age also, we may die at any moment. And we can't afford to take any karmic burden beyond what we already have. So Ratnakar, he rationalized, yes, this is true. But my own mother and father, they're different. My in-laws, something. But my own mother and father, their love is more than my in-laws. So he went to his own mother and father and he asked, oh, mother and father, Mata Pita, listen, I have been accumulating so much sin by doing the activities I need to do in order to maintain you. So please, mother and father, your love and affection for me from my birth has been very wonderful. So now, will you be willing to take some part of the sins that I'm accumulating in order to relieve me from that burden? So Ratnakar's mother and father told, listen, son, did we not raise you? Did I not work day after day, his father told? The mother told, from the time you were a baby, and I breastfed you, and I cooked for you, and I did so many things. Now in our elder age, as we're passing and we're trying to perfect our lives, you want to now take your sins and put them on our back as a burden? Is this truly the nature of what the Dharma of a real son is? Is this the real love of a son? So Ratnakar's heart somewhat melted and he thought, yes, how could I ask my own parents to take this burden? They're elderly. My kids are very young. And my kids, I've given them so many things. So he immediately ran and he embraced his son and his daughter, putting them on his lap, and he began to speak to them. My dear children, I know you're very young, but you know how much your father has done for you, how hard your father has worked for you. It has come to my attention that I may have to suffer some consequence for some of the activities I've done in order to make you very happy, to give you new toys, to bring you food, to give you shelter, to allow you to go to your schooling. So many things I've done for your welfare. You're very young now, and you have a very long life in front of you. I'm asking you, can you please carry just a little bit? I know you're small children, just a little bit of the burden of my sinful life that has been occurred by my activities. The children said, Father, is it not the duty of a father to take care of his children? Is it our fault that we came into the world? And oh, Father, being very young, we have an opportunity to live a pristine life in such a way that we may not accumulate any sin. Why now would you like to burden us and make an obstacle for us to perfect our lives simply for your own desire? Is this truly the love of a father for their children? Again, Ratnakar's heart melted and he thought, looking at the faces of his children and listening to their sweet voices, how can I ask them to take this burden? But now Ratnakar's heart was somewhat becoming changed because he was thinking, wow, it's very amazing that those who are closest to you in a time of crises, they may not also step forward to accommodate your sin. Of course, there's an upakyin here. The upakyin teaching here is that whatever karma we do, some of it may be shared if the persons participating in it with us are benefiting by it. But the real burden of karma is on the individual. You understand? But finally, Ratnakar thought one last thought. Listen, according to Dharma, the wife is one half of the husband's body. Therefore, the wife shares everything equally with the husband. So he went to his wife and he brought her to the side. He said, my darling wife, I've approached your parents. I've approached my parents. I've approached our children. And I've asked them for some relief from the great burden of the sins I've committed to maintain our family. It was understandable that our parents, yours and mine in their elder age, would not be able to bear this burden. And our children of such tender age, it would be difficult also for them. But my dear wife, you're my better half. You are Dharma Patni. Dharma Patni means a wife who is dedicated to Dharma. So certainly, even though I cannot share this burden among others, certainly you will take half this burden because you're my darling wife. And the wife said, my dear husband, am I not already sharing everything half? Do you think I stay home all day and I don't do anything? When you go out to work, do I not take care of our children, our elderly parents? Do I not make sure everything is prepared for you when you come home? Have I ever one time been unchaste? Have I ever one time violated Dharma? Have I ever one time asked that our situation should be different? We live in a very humble life, but I've always maintained and stood by you through every single thing. And now you want that the burden of your sinful life should also come to me? Is this truly love of a husband for a wife? So Ratnakar became at this point very depressed because his last outlet was the wife. And one considers my wife will always be there by my side for every single thing. So now somewhat depressed, but also having an epiphany and having some realization, he came back to the Saptarishis. And when he returned to the Saptarishis, he saw that they were untied. So it proved that the Saptarishis always had the power to free themselves. They could have left at any time. But the Saptarishis stayed in that very place, which means even though they could have left, and he would have had this realization that he's full of sinful life that he'll have to take the burden for, and they could have just disappeared, rather they stayed there. So he had the realization, really the only persons who truly care about us in this life are Sadhu Guru. We have many relationships in this world, but in the end of everything, the real nature of love, affection, concern is always going to be with Sadhu Guru. So then he said, listen, I've had realization now that I don't have any other shelter but you. But having offended you and having mistreated you and having acted sinfully towards you, I'm folding my palms and saying, if you want to leave me to my despair and to my fate, I will understand. But Narada Rishi and the other Rishis spoke up in unison. No, and they all raised their hands giving Ashirvad. Ashirvad means like a blessing. O Ratnakar, our purpose in staying here to wait for your return was only to give you the mercy of the best possible thing, to make you purified so that you can become devoted to God. So then Ratnakar said, how is it possible? If I'm burdened with so much sin, if I've committed so many acts of violence against so many people, even those who are great sages and rishis like yourself, how will I become purified? How is it possible to become free from this burden? And then Narada Muni spoke up and he told, listen, simply by reciting the name that I will give you, all of your sins can be removed and you can obtain the ultimate destination of life. So Ratnakari became very excited, but he still had some doubt. What name has this kind of power? So then Narada Muni told the name Rama. So at that time, Ratnakar was telling Rama, Rama. This name sounds very sweet, but he couldn't pronounce it, right? Only in his mind he was thinking like this, but he couldn't say the name. So Narada Muni told, listen, simply sit and recite this name, Rama, and all your sins will go away. Do we have any proof of this? Sankyat parihasam vastolam helanam va. Vaikuntha nama asesha aga haram vidu. In Srimad Bhagavatam it's written, if a person will chant the name of the Lord, Sankyat, as a hint for something else, Vastobam, if the letters of the name are reversed or out of order, Vastobam, Parihas, in order to do joking, Helanam, even if neglectfully you say the name of the Lord. Vaikuntha Nam, this name is not different from Vaikuntha Pati Bhagavan, means that Lord of the Vaikuntha. Therefore, Sesha Aga, unlimited, Aga means sins, Asesh means unlimited sins, Haram Vidu, they're all taken away. Simply by reciting the name of Bhagavan. What to speak? This name can also give love of God. What to speak? It also removes all sins. So Valmiki said, yes, true, I have full faith in what you're telling me, but I cannot even from my mouth utter this name. Perhaps because of the sinful nature of my life, then I'm being checked from even saying the pure name of the Lord. So then Narada Muni told, listen, I want you to sit. Find something that you can concentrate on. So in Sanskrit, one name for a tree is called Mara. Also, Mara is the word Ram in reverse order. You understand? So he told you sit and you concentrate your mind so you do not become deviated, because chanting the name with concentration is important. So he said you stare at the Mara tree and you simply chant Mara, 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 Mara. And eventually, as your heart becomes purified, because the Mara still contains Rama, the heart will become purified and that Mara will turn into Rama. So in this way, Valmiki dedicated himself, sitting in one place, staring at the Mara tree. And he began to chant, Mara, 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 Mara. He chanted so long, so deeply, with so much concentration, he became unaware of his surroundings. At that time, his body became like petrified. And only internally he was chanting still, Rama, 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 Rama. At that time, not distinguishing between regular wood and the body of Ratnakar and ants, they built a hill around his body. In Sanskrit language, an anthill is called a Valmikam. So they began to build this anthill around the body of Ratnakar. So still Ratnakar, being oblivious due to absorption in Nam, was chanting Rama, 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 Rama. At that time, Lord Rama, the creator of the universe, he came down, and seeing the condition of Ratnakar, he took some water from his kamandalu and he sprinkled it on the anthill. And as soon as he sprinkled it on the anthill disappeared and revealed the resplendent new body of Ratnakar. Lord Brahma, when he looked up and he saw Lord Brahma, he realized, I must have become purified, because now I'm seeing that very creator, co-creator of this universe, Sri Brahmaji, on his divine swan. So he folded his hands and he offered some prayers. And then Brahma told him, listen, Ratnakar, you are a new person now. Because you were born from Valmikam, you'll be known as Valmiki. Valmiki means that person born from Valmikam, or the anthill. Also, the Valmikam, or the anthill, is also known as Bhumi Karana. The word Karana means ear. Bhumi means Mother Earth. So anthills are considered to be like the multiple ears of Mother Earth. This will come in important later on when Sita comes to the ashram of Valmiki. So Valmiki became known as Valmiki. So Valmiki at that time, after performing his austerities, when he started his austerities, he was about 41 years old. That was the same year that Lord Ram was born. You understand? The year that Valmiki began his austerities was the year that Lord Ram was born. Now, Ram, having taken birth, I'll describe that in a minute, but Ram lived in Ayodhya after being born for 12 years. At that 12 years, Vishwamitra Muni would come and he would take him to the forest for the first time in order to rid the forest of demons. But first we'll discuss how the birth of Lord Ram took place. So the father of Lord Ram was named Dasarat. His mother's name was Kaushalya. She was the first of many queens that would be married by Dasarat. Dasarat Maharaj married 360 queens. The reason is, according to the commentators, that actually, if you want to have a child, you have the necessary dealings with your wife, but you need to give time, right? So normally if you have, and then 1 year later, you can try again to have a child. You understand? This is one set up in Vedic arrangement. So in order to make sure, because he was unable to have a son for many, many years, he married 360 wives so that he would be able to, every day, he would have a different wife in order to take another opportunity in order to have a child. 3 of these wives were principal among the 360, Kaushalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi. So Kaushalya was actually the son of one great king, Sumitra equally one great king, but Kaikeyi's situation was very special. Kaikeyi, her father Maharaj Kaikeyi, was also a very great king during the time of Dasarat Maharaj. And once when Dasarat Maharaj went to the kingdom of Maharaj Kaikeyi, he was served by his daughter Kaikeyi. And seeing the beauty of Kaikeyi and seeing her mood of service, then Dasarat Maharaj became very attracted. So he asked Maharaj Kaikeyi, "Oh Maharaj, your daughter being very beautiful and very humble, very sweet, I'm asking, is it possible to give her hand in marriage to me? This way we will have an alliance. And also your daughter will have, among all the suitors who may come for her, she'll have the greatest person who is the leader of the Surya Vansh. Surya Vansh means the dynasty of the sun, in being married to myself." So Maharaj Kaikeyi, listen, I know you have 360 wives. If any of those wives will give birth, their son will become the king of Ayodhya. Why I should put my daughter in a situation like that? So then Dasarat Maharaj listened to Maharaj Kaikeyi's proposal. What was that proposal? You can have the hand of my daughter in marriage if, since you want an alliance, the son born from the womb of my daughter will become the king of Ayodhya. Dasarat Maharaj at the time was thinking, listen, I don't have a son now anyway. I have 360 wives, but I have no son. What is there to lose? So he told Maharaj Kaikeyi, yes, so be it. If Kaikeyi will have a child, certainly he can be the heir to the throne. So in this way, Kaikeyi was married to Dasarat Maharaj. Kaikeyi, was married to Dasarat Maharaj, and they returned to Ayodhya. So still, for some time, there was no child which was born. Dasarat Maharaj did have one daughter. Her name was Shanta. And he had a very dear friend in a nearby kingdom named Ramapad. Ramapad once, he was very desperate to have a daughter. And so Maharaj Dasarat, while he was visiting him, he said, "Oh king, we are all aligned as friends and as rulers. So I will give you my daughter to raise." So he gave his own daughter Shanta to Ramapad Maharaj. So now Ramapad Maharaj, in his kingdom once, there was a great famine and drought. And he was trying to find a way in order to rid the country of that drought. So it came to his attention that there was a great rishi named Vibhandak Rishi. So Vibhandak Rishi, he had a son who was pure from his birth. He had never had any dealings at all with the opposite sex. He was completely staunch brahmachari, everything. But when he was born, there was a protrusion from his head. And therefore he was named Rishashingha. Rishashingha means like a deer. So because of this protrusion, he was called Rishashingha. So Shanta Maharaj, Ramapad Maharaj, he wanted to try and have an arrangement to bring Rishashingha to his kingdom, because his ministers told, if he will perform a yajna for you, then certainly rain will come. What to speak of if he performs a yajna, even if he enters into the kingdom, by his power, auspiciousness will come, which means rain will come. But now the difficulty was, how will we get him from Vibhandak Rishi? He's very strict, he's very powerful. If we'll try to somehow or another take his son from him, he will curse all of us. So what he did was he had all of the associates of his daughter, Shanta, and Shanta herself go to the forest where Rishashingha was. So very nearby, they begin to sing songs and to play. So Rishashingha was thinking, ooh, I've heard many voices and I've heard many animals in the forest, but I've never heard anything as charming as this. You understand? So he was so enchanted by hearing the voices of all of these young girls laughing, joking, singing songs, etc. So he didn't pay any attention to it more for some time, but as it persisted, he thought, I'll have to investigate to see what this is. So while his father was away from the ashram, Rishashingha went and he peeped only through the bushes to see all of the beauty of these maidens which had come from the kingdom of Ramapad Maharaj. At that time, he had never seen a form like that. His natural male instincts arose and he was thinking, oh, how charming of these brahmacharis. You understand? Because he had no conception what is boy, what is girl, this and that. How beautiful is their forms. You understand? And he was thinking, yes, I have one protrusion from my head, but also their chest has protrusion, their waist has protrusion, so many things. And he was becoming very enchanted. So the girls, they noticed that Rishishringa was there. And so they immediately called out to him. He became very embarrassed, but they told him, you should come and be with us. Why are you being unfriendly? So as Rishishringa came close and they touched his hands to bring him, oh, come and be with us. He had never felt this kind of touch before. So now all of his brahmacharya was disturbed, everything, but he was thinking this is some kind of new feeling, and it must be because these friends are like divine devis. They must be some kind of special persons, that even in my heart I'm feeling all these special feelings. So then after some time of being with them, they told, listen, why don't you come to our home? We want to show you our home. Why do you live only here in the forest? Have you never eaten a good meal? Have you only ever eaten roots and fruits and these things? Have you tasted what is real food? So he was very enchanted, and almost in a daze, they took him by the hand and took him back to the kingdom of Ramapad Maharaj. There, he saw the glory of all the palaces, the beauty of all the people. He saw men like himself and ladies like the young girls who had brought him, and they were all associating together. So he made the conclusion, this is a natural life. I've never seen these things. My father's never let me experience these things, but this must be natural life. He also ate other food for the first time. So then he saw that Ramapad Maharaj, who was the father of Shanta, that he seemed somewhat depressed. And so he asked, oh Raj, why do you look depressed? And so then Ramapad and his ministers told, listen, our kingdom is normally always flourishing. But at this time, it is so difficult for us because of drought and famine. We don't know what to do. But we know, O Rishiwal, means like O Rishi, that you have great power. So we suggest our ministers that you perform a yajna for us. And by appeasing to Bhagavan and the Devatas, then certainly rain will come. So Rishishringa agreed immediately, and a great yajna was performed, and so much rain came. So now, that same Ramapad Maharaj, when he was talking to Dasarat Maharaj at a different time, he told, listen, my daughter has now married Rishishringa. If you want to have a son, why not have Rishishringa come and perform a yajna for you? So Dasarat Maharaj, at first he thought about it, and then he thought, yes, at this point I'm desperate, and whatever will be needed to have an heir to my throne, I will do that. So Rishishringa, of course, now fully agreed, and he came and he performed the yajna for 1 year for auspiciousness for the kingdom of Ayodhya. The last part of that yajna, after that yajna was performed, was called a Kama Putreshti Yajna. It means a yajna to fulfill the desire to have a putra or son. So, of course, the yajna was performed perfectly, and Rishishringa, by his power, he was able to make everything auspicious, and immediately from the fire, Agni Dev appeared. And when he appeared, he was holding a golden pot. On top of the golden pot was a silver lid. So the commentators, they describe, in order to make the sweet rice, the kheer or payasam, it's called sometime in South India, to make it exactly the right temperature to be consumed, the silver keeps heat and the gold dissipates heat. So it's described that Agni Dev, when he came from the fire, in order not to make the kheer or payasam very hot, but to make it digestible so that it wouldn't be cold either, it was in a gold pot with a silver lid. So some heat was retained, but the golden pot dissipated some of that heat to make it exactly suitable to be taken. So now Rishishringa gave the advice, you should give to each of your queens some of the payasam, it's called a kheer, and in this way, it is guaranteed that the fruit of our yajna will be successful, and you will definitely have an heir to your throne. So Dasarat Maharaj became very excited. The pot was given to him, and he immediately thought that he will distribute it, but immediately the politics of having multiple wives came in. So the politics of having multiple wives is that the senior wife has to be treated like a senior. So the order of the 3 wives of Dasarat, which were invited to come to the yajna, Kausalya was senior, Sumitra was next in seniority, and then Kaikeyi. So Dasaratha Maharaj took half of the payasam and he gave to Kausalya. And then he took 12.5%, he gave 25% rather to Sumitra, because you cannot give. In the shlokas that describe it, it says arid, arid, arid. Arid means half. So he gave 50% to Kausalya, 25% to Sumitra, 12.5% he gave to Kaikeyi. But an interesting thing happened. Kaikeyi, she would not take her portion because the children would be born in the order that the payasam was taken. So Kausalya took hers first. Then Kaikeyi, when she received hers, she took it, but Sumitra did not take hers. She waited until Kausalya and Kaikeyi took theirs. So now when Dasaratha Maharaj saw the heart of Sumitra and how kind she was to her other wives and how she had a mood that if my children are born, they should be born to serve the children of Kausalya and Kaikeyi, he became overwhelmed and took the other 12.5% and also gave that to Sumitra. So Sumitra born twins, which were Lakshmana and Shatrughan. Kausalya, having taken 50%, manifested the Supreme Lord Sri Ramachandra, and Kaikeyi's son was Bharat. When the children were born, they were all given, according to royalty, their own individual cribs. No, first, they were all given individual rooms, right? And they had attendants in each room. But the children would cry incessantly. They would not stop crying. So all of the nursemaids who were attending to them, they had a conference and said, listen, we don't know why the children are crying. So they would bring the mothers in. And when the mothers would come in to the individual rooms, the children would cry more. So then the mothers became also bewildered. They said, perhaps we should put them all in one room. So at that time, they took all 4 cradles and they put them in one room. The children continued to cry. So then they had more meetings, they had more discussions. What can we do? So then they took the cradles and they put them right next to each other. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The children continued to cry. So then each mother picked up her children. Kausalya picked up Ram. Kaikeyi picked up Bharat. And the 2 other children, Shatrughan and Lakshmana, were picked up by Sumitra. And as they were shaking the children to try to stop them from crying, each of the children were looking at one of the other brothers. So it came in the mind of Sumitra, right? Oh, perhaps my desire, which was to have my sons be the servants of the sons of Kausalya and Kaikeyi, maybe this service should start now. So Sumitra suggested you should put them back in their cradles. So Ram went in his cradle, Bharat went in his cradle, but Sumitra took Lakshman and put in the cradle of Ram. She took Shatrughan, put in the cradle of Bharat, and immediately they stopped crying. So like this, it was proven that the pairs of Ram and Lakshman, Bharat and Shatrughan, were eternally pairs. As they began to grow up in the kingdom, they were adored by all. And each of the 3 mothers, they never considered, this is my son, this is your son, this is... No. Each thought all 4 were our sons. And they treated them like that. Of course, Ram was so enchanting and so charming. He was so beautiful that sometimes all of the mothers would gather and they would look into the crib of the cradle of Ram, and they would each begin to describe the beauty of Lord Ram. And as they would describe the beauty, one would speak one thing, then another person speak another, then another, and it went on like this for hours and hours and hours. So only when the nursemaids would come in and say, oh, it's now time for feeding, would they be able to stop. So now, as the children began to grow, they became very playful. So all 4 boys would go all over the kingdom, and the palace in Ayodhya was huge. So they would go all over, and the mothers would always have anxiety. It's called Sanka Amangala. Sanka Amangala means you always have a doubt. If I don't see my child, something must have happened. But the boys on purpose would go and hide in little unique places around the palace. Another thing they used to do when they got a little bit older was the mother of Kaikeyi passed away when she was young. So she was raised by a sort of nursemaid named Manthara. So Manthara came to live with Kaikeyi when she came to the palace in Ayodhya. But Manthara was hunchbacked. So she always was bent over. So Ram and Lakshmana and the other boys, they used to take arrows and they would put like mud tips, not real arrows. They would put mud on the back and they would hide behind different pillars and they would shoot Manthara in the back. And when they would shoot Manthara in the back, she would go like this, obviously being hit in the back, she would straighten up. And then they would laugh and they would run. So they were thinking, we're actually trying to help this lady, right? That's what noble Kshatriyas do. This thing which is attacking her, which is the hump, is like our enemy. So by shooting that hump and she straightens up, we're ridding her of that enemy. So they were young boys thinking like, but Manthara was very furious, right? Because it was like this was a daily occurrence. So she was very angry. So eventually the boys grow up, and when they become around 12 years old, Dasarat Maharaj is sitting in his shabha, means his chamber, where they have all of their meetings and everything. Every big palace has a chamber where the kings and their ministers meet. So along with Vaishishta and Sumanta, who was the minister of Dasarat Maharaj, once while they were sitting there, the great sage Vishwamitra Muni came there. Vishwamitra Muni, he came in and he immediately, all of Dasarat Maharaj, Sumanta, even Vaishishta, who was somewhat senior to Vishwamitra, they all stood in honor of Vishwamitra Muni. And so then Dasarat Maharaj arranged for service to him, gave him a seat, foot washing, everything. He bought food, everything. And he held his hands and said, "Oh Rishi, how can I serve you? Do you want my kingdom? Do you want my army? Do you want my treasury?" Because the real heart of serving a Vaishnava, serving a sadhu, means you're willing to give everything. And it cannot simply be platitudes. It has to be done sincerely. Of course, the sadhus, being detached from the material world, they don't want anything material. But you're offering those things to them, give them the mood to invoke their blessings. So Vishwamitra Muni told, "Oh, Dasarat Maharaj, you are the highest emblem of your dynasty, the Surya Vamsa, the dynasty of the sun. You are such a dharmic king. I don't require your army, your treasury. I don't even need your kingdom. I'm fully Atmaram, self-satisfied. But I've come for one request." Dasarat Maharaj says, "Whatever you will ask, Rishi, I will give you immediately. Please, bring me your son Ram." So Dasarat Maharaj, his mouth opened up and he said, "Oh, you want to give blessings to my son?" Vishwamitra Muni only said, "Bring your son Ram." So immediately Dasarat Maharaj called out to Ram, and Ram came along with Lakshmana. And when they entered into the room, it was complete silence. Because as Ram was walking into the room, Ram's beauty at this time, he was about 12 years old. His body had started to form very nicely. The beauty of his hair, his face was so beautiful, his complexion, everything. All of the sages and all of the ministers and Vaishishta Rishi, his guru, everyone, they were looking at Ram with unblinking eyes as he walked towards the throne of Dasarat Maharaj. When the gait of Ram, I can't describe because there's so much poetry that describes, it'll take too long. But it describes that every step that Ram took, they would analyze the gait, means the way he walked. And so many poems came out of just describing how he walked. At that time, as he became closer to the throne, at that time, Dasarat Maharaj, having any apprehension what Vishwamitra Muni may ask of him in relation to Ram, he said, "Go." So everyone was shocked. You told Ram to come, now you're telling him to go? So then Ram turned around immediately in obedience to his father and began to walk away. Now what happened was they were seeing Ram walk from the back. And again, they became all enchanted. And as Ram reached the door to exit, they were entranced looking at Ram from the rear side now. So then, again, Dasarat thought, Vishwamitra Muni may become very angry with me if I don't follow his order. "Oh, Ram, come." So then Ram would come back, and then this went on for some time. So they were also engaged in looking at Ram as he was coming and going. Finally, Vishwamitra Muni said, "Oh, Dasarat." And at that time, Dasarat Maharaj, he told Ram to come, and Ram stayed by the side along with Lakshmana. Vishwamitra Muni said, "Listen, my fellow rishis and myself, when we're doing yajnas in the forest and we're doing our pujas and bhajans, we're being constantly disturbed by many rakshasas and other kinds of asuras who come in and soil our yajnas and our practice of puja. They come and they spray all kind of nasty substances. They'll disturb the yajna. So I want that your son Ram should accompany us, right? Along with Lakshmana can come, and that they will protect us while we're doing yajna. So Dasarat Maharaj immediately, his anxiety level hit a peak, and he said, "Oh, Rishiwal, how is it possible? Look at the tender age and look at the nature of my son." He said, "Listen, I can give you my entire army. No, better still, I myself will go with you. And you know my history. One reason I am called Dasarat is because even on behalf of Indra, the demigod of heaven, I fought on his behalf, and I fought so valiantly that I was fighting in 10 directions at the same time. The word Das means 10, Rat means chariot. So with his chariot, he fought in 10 directions at the same time. So he said, "Oh, Rishiwal, I will come with you. You have no fear." Vishwamitra Muni said, "O king, I've asked for your son Ram. Will you give or you'll not give? This choice is for you. You can uphold the prestige of your family, that they are such a vrat. It means when they offer something, they speak truth. You've offered me your entire kingdom. What to speak of your son?" Dasarat then said, "Listen, the demons mostly come in the night. Normally, at this age, 12 years old, by the time the sun begins to set is the time that my children are being put to bed. So my sons have no even ability to fight at nighttime. They've never had this kind of training." So Vishwamitra Muni then became somewhat angry. He said, "Listen, Dasarat, you should know that either you can follow Dharma, keep your promise, have faith, and give me your son to go to the forest, or you can ruin the reputation of your entire dynasty." Dasarat Maharaj was devastated. To uphold Dharma, to keep the tradition of the prestige of my family alive, or to part with Ram, who's like my very life. So as Dasarat began to answer again, Vaishishta Rishi, his guru, and Sumanta, his minister, they came and they pleaded to Dasarat, "Listen, don't think that Vishwamitra Muni is ordinary. Vishwamitra Muni," they told the history, I can't tell here, it would take too long. "He was a great Kshatriya, actually. And he spent many thousands of years to become a Brahmin, because once he tried to steal a Kamandenu from one Brahmin, and he was a very powerful Kshatriya, but simply by his Brahma Tejas, the power of his Brahminical powers, that Brahmin, it was Vaishishta actually, he checked Vishwamitra. So Vishwamitra Muni said, what is the use of having the power of a Kshatriya? The power of Brahmins is so much greater. So he began to practice austerities, and he failed, and he practiced again, failed, till he began to practice sincerely, and he got Brahma Tejas, the power of a Brahmin. So Sumanta and Vaishishta told us, don't think he's ordinary. Simply by the blinking of his eyes, he can ruin thousands of Rakshasas. He's doing this for the glory of Ram. So Dasarat Maharaj, finally putting his head down, he relented, and Vishwamitra Muni then took Ram to the forest. Immediately they went to one forest, and Vishwamitra Muni, I'm speeding the story because there's so many things left to tell. Immediately as he began doing his yajna, then one demoness named Taraka came. Tataka or Taraka, some say. She had two sons named Subahu and Marichi. So they all came and they were going to attack the yajna of Vishwamitra Muni. So then the question comes, why, knowing the power of someone like Vishwamitra Muni, would Tataka and her sons even attempt to do it? It's because normally the activities of a Brahmin do not spill over into the activities of a Kshatriya. So they will not use force, even though they have that power. Immediately, Vishwamitra Muni turned to Ram and said, there, you should kill this demoness right away. Immediately, Lakshmana and Ram took their bows, strung arrows, they aimed, and then they looked closely. What? It's a woman. So at that point, Ram turned to Vishwamitra Muni and said, oh, Rishiwal, this is a lady. How can we kill a lady? Vishwamitra Muni told, listen, evil takes personification. If evil takes personification as a man, a child, a woman, an animal, a rishi, a king, will you not defend Dharma against evil? So stop looking at the external form. So Vishwamitra was teaching Ram about what is the nature of the Atma and what is the nature of the body that manifests on any Atma, and that body should be considered according to its quality. Because the body of Tatika, Subahu, Marichi were full of demoniac qualities. He said, your duty is to rid the world of adharma. It's for this reason that you descended to this world. Don't be fooled by the external appearance. So Ram thought, will any ill repute come to our dynasty because Ram, the son of Dasarat, in the line of Ishwaku, in the Surya Vamsa, the first act of his Kshatriya Dharma was that he killed a woman. So then Vishwamitra told him, listen, would you rather the first act of your Kshatriya Dharma be that you refuse to protect the Rishi against the Dharma? Would you want that the first act of your Kshatriya Dharma be that you allowed Rakshashis and our Rakshasa sons to devour a Rishi? Because I will not lift a finger. So immediately Ram thought, and he said, no, Dharma means that which is right versus which is wrong. Subahu, Marichi, and Tataka are wrong. So immediately Ram strung his bow along with Lakshman, and immediately he shot Tarika and killed her. He killed Subahu. He shot Marichi, but what happened was miraculous. He shot the arrow so hard that rather than immediately killing Marichi, it hit the body of Marichi and drove him all the way to Lanka in South India. So remember, they were very nearby Ayodhya, which is in the northern part of India, but the arrow drove Marichi all the way to Sri Lanka. It is from this that Marichi said, I'm done. I'm all good. I realize who this is. I realize my arms are too short to box with God. So I'm good. I'm going to the forest, do some meditation and stuff, get my mind right. I'm not doing this, right? But he happened to be in the place where Ravana was. So then in that place, he became associated with Ravana, and Ravana became his maintainer. So Ravana didn't request anything of him, but Ravana was his maintainer. So an alliance between Marichi and Ravana came. And Marichi told him that his mother and brother were killed by this young boy. So this is the seed in the mind of Ravana. Oh, such power from a young boy? It must be because that sage Vishwamitra was there, but no harm, no foul. And he moved on. So now, to speed the story up, then Vishwamitra takes Ram and Lakshman to the kingdom of Janak Maharaj, Janakpur. And there in Janakpur, Mithila, Ram comes at the time when Sita has now grown up. Of course, Sita was discovered in the field by her father, Janak Maharaj, on the end of his plow. The end of a plow is called Sita. That's how she got that name. Now she's grown up into a beautiful young lady. But Janak Maharaj, once he was coming to the area of the palace where his daughter stayed, his daughter and her friends were playing. And the ball that they were playing with rolled under a huge mantle on what's the Shiva Dhanus. Shiva Dhanus means the bow of Lord Shiva, which had been given to Parashuram, which was now being held by Janak Maharaj in his palace. That bow was situated there. No one could lift that bow. So once that bow was established in any place, it could not move. So even though it was established in that particular room, Janak Maharaj never moved the bow to put it in a different place, even though the children used to play in that room, because no one could lift the bow. But one day he was there and he saw that his daughter, Sita, she was playing and her ball rolled under that mantle where the bow was. Sita easily went over and picked up the bow and pushed the mantle aside and retrieved the ball. So now Janak Maharaj was thinking, oh my gosh, if my daughter, when she's a little bit older, wants to marry, who can I marry her to that she'd be equally yoked? So he made that the rules of the Swayamvar, which is the marriage competition for the hand of any young lady, it should be that whoever wants to marry Sita, they should be able to lift this bow. Now, Janak Maharaj had already heard about the birth of Lord Ram and the son of Dasarat Maharaj. But because Ram was relatively young, And all of these elder kings would come. They had not sent an invitation directly to Dasarat for Ram and Lakshman to come. But Vishwamitra Muni brought them. So that gave him an excuse. If Vishwamitra Muni will bring them, everyone respects Vishwamitra Muni. So no one will question the presence of Ram and Lakshman there. So Ram and Lakshman and Vishwamitra Muni, they sat in the observer section. They weren't sitting in the section of all the Kshatriyas who were to compete for the hand of Sita. So each of the Kshatriyas came up one by one, and they would put their hand on the bow and they would try to lift it one-handed. Then they would try two-handed. And when they couldn't do it at all, they would turn their heads in shame and put the bow down. But the commentators say there was a very interesting fact that would happen here. When they would put the bow down, all of their power of that particular Kshatriya was consumed by the bow. So now the bow became heavier for the next person. This went on for several Kshatriyas who tried. Among them, Ravana had showed up. So then Ravana was there, and Ravana was laughing at each attempt of each of the Kshatriyas. Finally, Ravana said, enough. And he stood up, and because all feared Ravana to some degree, he stood up and immediately went over to the bow. And with great confidence, he put one hand on the bow. He held up his finger like this to show all the other Kshatriyas. All of you, you're so weak in front of me. You should never have even attempted. And then he began trying to lift the bow. Now panic set in. Why? Because they saw that the bow began to slightly move. So Dasarat Maharaj gasped. Sita hid her face. Her girlfriends all gathered around her to cover her body. Everyone there gasped. But as he tried to lift, it didn't move. So he said, okay, no problem. I was trying to only lift with one hand. He put the second hand on. And he began trying to lift. And more he tried to lift, and still he could not lift it, but it consumed all of his power. While he was trying to lift, and because he had taunted the other Kshatriyas, Lakshman, who was younger than Ram, stood up and said, that bow is like a toy. Me and my brother play with so many bows like this. Why is there so much big deal about this bow? We've broken many bows like this even. My brother can easily string this bow. So Vishwamitra Muni looked at Lakshman and smiled. But Ram said, this is not proper etiquette. He told Lakshman, sit down, be quiet, don't speak like this. So immediately everyone looked over to the observer section because now Lakshman is speaking like this. So then Janak Maharaj says, listen, all the Kshatriyas up to one of the most powerful have tried. I have to offer an opportunity. Vishwamitra Muni, what is your opinion? Vishwamitra Muni said, they are Kshatriyas. They're in the line of Ishwavaku Maharaj, and he gave some glorification of their dynasty. Why they should not be offered the opportunity? So many of the Kshatriyas began to laugh. Look at these small boys. What are they going to do? Why is Vishwamitra Muni even suggesting such a thing? Maybe he's been practicing too many austerities, so many different things. This bow cannot be lifted. So Ram, again, he walked up to the bow. And again, as he was walking to the bow, Sita's girlfriends, they moved to the side and he said, oh, look, Sita. But then Sita was so shy now. She couldn't look at Ram. Ram was so attractive and she was so attracted, she couldn't look. So she was turning her head, but she was looking into the friend's eyes and saying, please tell me if it works or not. So Ram went over to the bow and Ram offered pranam to the bow. He offered pranam to Janak Maharaj, Vishwamitra Muni, all the sages gathered. He turned even to the Kshatriyas who had tried and offered his humble respects. And then Ram very easily picked up the bow, and not only picked it up, but he strung the bow. And then Ram, to pull the bowstring back, he pulled it, boom, the bow broke. So in this way, everybody was astounded. You understand? Oh, I forgot one important point. Ravana, after being distressed by not being able to lift the bow and being embarrassed, he left. So he did not see this activity of Ram. He left. So now all the Kshatriyas were amazed. Who is this person? Etc., etc. They told Sita, he's done it, he's done it. So Sita was brought down before him, and then she had a garland in her hand, and she went to garland Lord Ram. But Ram was very tall, and he had a crown on as well. So anyway, she told to Lord Ram, she looked up, and by eye she told, I can't garland you, you're too tall. So then Ram, looking at the eyes of Sita, he bent his head down. So some of our acharyas said, This is the first act of submission of the husband. That as soon as she looked at him, he melted and he bent his head over so she could garland him. So in that way, once she garlanded Lord Ram and then he returned the garland, they were married. Then they thought, well, Lakshmana has come here also. So Janak Maharaj gave his other daughter Urmila. Then they called for Dasarat Maharaj to come to Janakpur, Mithila. Dasarat Maharaj came with his whole entourage. All the brothers were married there and they went back in a great procession. Now, at the time they were married, you have to remember Ram was 12 years old. Sita at the time was 6. So this means it was not a marriage. It was a betrothal. In other words, it was a promise that this will be your wife, right? Because actually Sita will not bear children until she is 33 years old. So it means they were not intimate or they did not have union until Sita was 33 years old. And Ram was 39 at that time. Because that's when Ram will come back from the forest. They grow up for 12 years in Ayodhya, which means Ram now is about 24 to 25. Sita is 6 years younger than that. It's at that time that Dasarat Maharaj, he is telling to Bharat and Shatrughan, oh, you should go to visit your grandfather. How long has it been since you've seen your grandfather? So Bharat and Shatrughan go to see the father of Kaikeyi. Oh, excuse me. Kaikeyi told them they should go to visit her father. In the meantime, Dasarat Maharaj was waking up in the morning, and one morning, every morning he would comb his hair. And when he was combing his hair, he looked very closely in the mirror. And when he looked in the mirror, he pulled his hair back and he saw one strand of gray hair. Now, at my point, I probably should just give up because this is happening, right? But Dasarat Maharaj saw only one strand of gray hair. And then he saw, this is the Kal Purush. It means time personified, telling him, it is time for you to pick an heir to your throne. So it was on that day that he met with Sumanta, Vaishishta, and others, and told, I'm going to make Ram the Yuvaraj, means the king in waiting. So immediately when he said that, the word went out around the kingdom of Ayodhya that Ram is going to be the Yuvaraj. All the different mothers, Kausalya, Sumitra, Kaikeyi, they all heard it, and they all were rejoicing, yes, yes, yes. Only one person was distressed. Does anybody know who that one person was? My wife told, Manthara. So Manthara, she came to visit Kaikeyi. When she walked into the chamber of Kaikeyi, Kaikeyi was busy making all kinds of gifts and decorations and everything. And Kaikeyi spoke to Manthara and said, oh, Manthara, did you hear the news? Have you heard the good news? Ram has been crowned the Yuvaraj. Not crowned, but made the Yuvaraj. It's such a great day of celebration. Please help me finish the decorations. And Manthara said, you fool. She had never spoken to Kaikeyi like that. Kaikeyi said, I beg your pardon. What? You fool. She said, Manthara, how would you speak to me like this? Manthara then told, have I not loved you when your mother passed away? Did I not raise you? Did I not hold you myself year after year in your young childhood? Did I not take care of you and made sure that everything that you wanted was always with you? Yes, Manthara, but why are you upset? So then Manthara told, listen, Ram is the son of Kaushalya. If Ram will be made the king, what will that make you in relation to the wives of Lord Ram? Will Kaushalya not be his main queen? Previously, he showed you so much affection. Previously, you were his number one. He personally asked your father for your hand. He personally promised your father he would make your son king. Kaikeyi told him, what is the big deal? Ram is my son. Bharat is my son. Lakshman, Shatrughan. We all don't see whose son is whose. We see we are mothers. She said, oh, how much deception has living in the palace of your father's enemy caused you? Now Kaikeyi said, what? You're saying that Dasarat Maharaj is the enemy of my father? Manthara, please, why will you speak like this? Manthara told, listen, where is your son right now? Kaikeyi told, I sent to see his grandfather. Why is it that at this time Dasarat Maharaj chose to make Ram king? Oh, Manthara, don't be so duplicitous. Don't think that this is royal intrigue. No. I'm not thinking like that. What I am thinking is that while your son is away and Ram has been crowned the Yuvaraj, the king in waiting, and then Ram will become king, and then Ram will think, what is the need for brothers like Bharat and Shatrughan? I have my close brother Lakshmana. Why don't we get together? I am so powerful. Why don't we attack that kingdom of Maharaj Kaikeyi and take it over? For the first time, the heart of Kaikeyi became somewhat disturbed. Yes, Kaikeyi. Do you think Ram is beyond such activity? Ayodhya is the most powerful kingdom. All have made alliances with Ayodhya. What do you think will happen when Ram becomes king? He will gather all these different kingdoms together under himself, and your father will be like his servant. Your sons will be the servants of Ram and Lakshman. You yourself will become a maid servant of Kausalya. So then she said, well, Manthara, what should I do? She said, listen, I'm telling you, you don't remember? When your husband volunteered to fight in the heavenly planets, he brags of that to this day. But don't you remember that while he was fighting, the wheel of his chariot came loose. His life was in danger. You at that time were with him riding on that chariot, and you took your own finger and put it in the spoke of that wheel to hold it in place, causing great pain to yourself in order to save his life by removing him from the battlefield until his health could be regained. At that time, in so much love and affection for you, he promised you, oh Kaikeyi, what a Dharma Patni you are. I'm granting you 2 boons. Whenever you will ask, I will grant you these 2 boons. You should take these 2 boons right now and say, 1, I want that Bharat should be made king, and you should banish Ram to the forest for 14 years. Kaikeyi took a gasp. How can I say such a thing? She said, what I want you to do is I want you to put the picture of your loving father, whose dear wife passed away. You put that picture in your mind, and then put the picture of your mind that your father is bowing down at the feet of your so-called son Ram. Kaikeyi at that time, she became somewhat bewildered. But interesting story here. It's mentioned that there was no way Kaikeyi could actually do this. Her love and affection for Ram was so strong. What could have made her do this? What could be the inner impulse that she could accept such a thing? In the Dakshin Ramayana, because I asked Gurudev where this story is told, and I'm telling the story I mentioned earlier. It's mentioned that when Ram was a small boy of about 2 years old, he was sitting in the lap of Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi was rocking him back and forth. He looked with his eyes at Kaikeyi and he said, oh, mother, listen, when I become of age to become the king of Ayodhya, I want you to promise me to do 2 things. Oh, Ram, what is it you want? I will do anything for you. You're my darling son. Showering kisses upon his face, she said, tell me, what is it that you want? You will banish me to the forest and you'll make your son Bharat the king. Kaikeyi was so bewildered. What are you talking about? You're a small boy, 2 years old, 4 years old. Why are you speaking about political intrigue and these things? Oh, simply enjoy yourself, play. For you, I'll bring the moon. I'll bring the sun, whatever you want. Don't think of these things. I'll give you anything you want. Simply be absorbed in your loving childhood. Said, no, mother, you must promise me. So Ram, out of his determination, then Kaikeyi realized, oh, he's taking this so seriously. It'll never come to pass. I need not worry about this. So she said, Tatastu, so be it. And because she made that promise at that time, because it was ultimately the desire of the Lord for his Leela, that seed unfolded by the nourishment of Manthara in her heart, and she agreed to follow through. She went from her quarters to what is called a Kop Bhavan. Now, most husbands and wives, they don't have in their houses a Kop Bhavan. What is Kop Bhavan? Kop Bhavan means, Kop means anger. Bhavan means a separate place in your house that when your wife becomes angry, she can go to that room. You, as a husband, you have to bear the brunt of if she gets angry, you just short, right? So there is no Kop Bhavan. You understand? But Kaikeyi went to the Kop Bhavan, and there She took off all of her jewelry, because these are all signs of anger. She disheveled her hair and she laid on the floor and began to wail. Immediately, the servants of Kaikeyi, they ran to Dasarat Maharaj, not Manthara, other servants. Oh, Maharaj, Princess Kaikeyi is laying in the Kopavan in great distress. So Dasarat Maharaj thought, the whole of Ayodhya is celebrating. What must have happened? What tragedy has taken place? So Dasarat Maharaj ran to that place. He opened the door and saw her laying on the floor. He said, oh, Kaikeyi, what is the matter? Has someone offended you? I will kill them this day. Has someone taken something from you? Has someone offended you by word or by deed or by action? Has there been something that you want which I have not given? I will get it immediately. So Kaikeyi sat up, tears still running down her eyes, her mascara still marked on her face. She said, oh, king, I only want to ask one question. Are you truly a Dharma Raj, a king who follows Dharma? He said, there's never been one king in the entire Surya Vamsa who is not very obedient to the law of Dharma, who has not been such a brat. He said first, not been such a brat, true to their word. She said, then king, tell me, you once promised me 2 boons. Can you keep your promise? He said, from my mouth utter these 2 boons. Never will I take them back. Therefore, O king, I want you to make my son the king and banish Ram to the forest for 14 years. Dasarat Maharaj fainted right there and there. Fainting to the ground, it made such a noise that Sumanta and others came because he has all his royal garb on. When he hit the ground, it made such a tumult. All of his ministers and Vaishnavas, everyone came. And they asked the Kaikeyi, what has happened? Why is Maharaj laying on the ground? She said, you'll have to ask him. I've only requested that he carry out the laws of Dharma. And for that, he's fainted. So they were very bewildered as Dasarat Maharaj was being consoled by Sumanta. And he sat up, tears in his eyes, his crown about to fall off. They asked, oh, Maharaj, what has happened? He said, today, I've been struck by lightning and my life is leaving me. So they knew this was a poetic description. She said, what lightning has struck you? And then he tried to repeat the words of Kaikeyi, but Dasarat Maharaj could not even say them. So he pointed towards Kaikeyi, he said, and he could not say the words. So then Kaikeyi spoke up and she said, listen, Sumanta, listen, O Vaishishta. I've only requested that the promise he made to me for saving his life, he should carry that out. He should make my son the king and banish Ram to the forest for 14 years. Sumanta and Vaishishta both gasped in deep breath. What are you saying, Kaikeyi? Why? Why? Kaikeyi said, will you all question Dharma, Vaishishta? You're the guru of this clan. Sumanta, you're the trusted advisor to this king. But now you're questioning me about Dharma? Is it not true that this king is such a vrat? He makes a promise, he should keep it. So she would not reveal any reasoning or anything. So then Dasarat, he could not even speak. So Sumanta, Vaishishta, they're all getting together in council. They said, listen, oh Dasarat, this thunderbolt certainly must be due to some problem. So there's a whole history of Dasarat Maharaj when he was young and the death of a young boy while he was hunting. Again, if I tell every single story, we will never finish. But the parents of that young boy told that he would suffer a pain like this because by accident, he was shooting his arrow, and it's called aiming by Dwani. Dwani means a sound. So the Kshatriyas at that time, they were so expert, sometimes they could hear the sound of an animal and they didn't have to even see it, but they could shoot the arrow based on the sound. But actually this young older couple, their son had gone to obtain water from the river, and the sound of his water container going into the water sounded like the sound of a deer. So when he shot the boy by accident. So now he's thinking, this has come back to haunt me, the words of that elderly couple, that I should suffer this pain that they're suffering. So now everything is being made arranged for Ram to have to go to the forest and Bharat to be made king. So word gets to the kingdom of Maharaj Kaikeyi, to Bharat and Shatrughan, that their father is in great distress. So they immediately get ready to return as quickly as possible. Kaikeyi returns to her quarters, and she's simply shut in her quarters, and she won't respond to anybody. So now Ram comes to Dasarath, and Dasarath tells Ram, and he cannot speak it. So Vaishishta and Sumanta, they tell to Ram what was the desire of Kaikeyi. Ram, without batting an eye, says, "Oh, father, to uphold your word, what problem is there? 14 years will be like 14 seconds only for me to do the service to the Dharma of our line and to fulfill your desire. I exist only for your pleasure, father. I have no problem. I will immediately go and prepare to leave." So Ram, at that time, he went and he began, and Lakshman came in and said, "Oh, my brother, I've heard the news. What is going on?" So he said, "Oh, father very kindly has given me a service to do." This was the mood of Lord Ram. He was the ideal son. He had so much love and affection. So Lakshman said, "I will go with you." So Ram said, "Oh, my brother, we've always been together. How is it possible that we should be separated? Yes, you can go." So as they were getting everything ready, the news got to Sita. So actually you would think that you would hear Sita crying and so forth. But Ram thought, I wonder if the news has reached to Sita. I don't hear any crying. I don't see that any of her servants have come to get me. So immediately Lakshman and Ram went to the quarters of Sita. And as they went in, Sita was smiling. And Sita looked at her husband. She paid Anjali. And then Ram looked and saw she was packing various things. So he told Sita, "What are you doing?" "Oh, my lord, I understand that we will have to leave and go to the forest for 14 years. I'm packing so that I can accompany you." So he said, "Sita, you cannot go to the forest. When I came to Janakpur, I married a princess who slept on silk beds with silk cloth, who had every finery imaginable, who ate every day the finest foods, who was attended to by many maidservants. How can I now tell that I'm taking the daughter of Janak Maharaj and subjecting her to cold, ferocious animals, eating of fruits and roots? How is it possible? You cannot go." Sita looked at Ram sternly and she told, "Listen, fruits and roots, ferocious animals, the bitter cold of night, the burning sun of the day, the long walks in forests filled with thorns and stones, the many dangers that are in that forest don't come one iota compared to the pain and suffering I would have if you leave me here and I'm not with you." Understand? So now looking said, "But how? How is it possible you'll do it?" And then Lakshman spoke and said, "Listen, I make a vow this day. Sita cannot be separated from you. So I'm making a vow this day that I will not eat or sleep, but I will spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, only protecting you and Sita." The wife of Lakshman heard this vow, and she said, "I will serve my husband by taking a vow that every second of sleep I have, every morsel of food I take will be dedicated to his nourishment so that he can perform this service." So now the trilogy, Sita, Lakshman, and Ram, they head off to the forest. At this time, Ram is 25, Sita 6 years younger. I cannot tell all of the different pastimes that take place, meeting of Guha, Sabari, all these different, because it would be, there's no way we finish. So many pastimes, I will say, for lack of ability to do that, because already almost 12 o'clock, so many pastimes took place in the forest. Beautiful places like Chitrakoot, where he will meet Bhat, and Bhat will plead for him to come home. He'll meet Guha, who will cross him over the river, and they'll create a friendship, right? So many that he'll relieve Ahali of the curse of Gautam Rishi. So many different pastimes. In the course of those pastimes, they will also visit the ashram of Valmiki Muni. Now Valmiki Muni is much older, because remember, when Ram was born, he was already 40-something years old, 41. So now Ram is 25, and in the course of those 14 years, he's become even older, right? So now they go to the ashram of Valmiki. They stay at the ashram of Valmiki for some time, seeing the beauty of this place. Now, after the 14 years is done, right? In that 14 years, Bart never ruled the kingdom. He told his mother, "From this day forward, I will never utter the word mother to you again," breaking the heart of Kaikeyi. I'm telling now, Gurudev told people do not realize that Kaikeyi is actually a heroine of the Ramayana. If she had not pronounced this curse, the whole Leela doesn't take place. So she accepted the burden of being outcast by her son, all the Ayodhyavasis and everyone else, in order to serve the Leela of Lord Ram. So Kaikeyi is very great, actually, in transcendental vision. But now the 14 years are over. Bharata, who never really accepted the throne, when he went to Chitrakoot, he took the sandals of Lord Ram and stayed just outside the kingdom in a place called Nandagan. And there he let the kingdom be ruled, and he would ask to the sandals of Ram. If there was any difficulty, he would ask the question, and the answer would come in his heart. So he ruled only by the sandals of Lord Ram. Understand? Now, 14 years later, Ram returns triumphantly to Ayodhya. Many things happen in the meantime. Once in the forest, I cannot avoid this pastime, they were in the forest called Janastan. There in that forest, there were 14,000 Rakshasas who lived there. Also, the sister of Ravana named Surpanaka, she was also there in that Janastan. When she saw the beauty of Lord Ram, and she saw them walking, she approached Lord Ram and said, "Oh, Prince of the Solar Dynasty, looking at you, my heart has now become completely captured. So I'm requesting that you should also take me as a wife." So Ram told, "Listen, I've made a vow. My father had 360 wives, but I've taken a vow that I will only accept ek patni vrata, means I will take only one wife in this life, no more. But my younger brother has not made such a vow. Though he's married, he's very handsome." So Surpanaka looked at Lakshmana and said, "Yeah, I agree. He's really fine." So at that time, then Surpanaka said, "Oh, Prince, then you will have me as your wife." And Lakshman said, "Listen, why will you come to me when a superior person is standing here? Don't you want the best for yourself? You should always want the highest thing." And in this way, back and forth, Lakshman and Ram, then they begin to giggle a little bit. Surpanaka said, "No, you're playing tricks on me. The real reason this is happening is because of this woman." So she immediately began to attack Sita. And as soon as she attacked Sita, Lakshman, true to his promise to protect them, pulled out his sword and he was about to kill her. Then he said, "Listen, it's not our Dharma to kill women, but you'll never do this again." And he chopped off the nose of Surpanaka. Surpanaka ran back to her brothers, Karan and Dushana. They were in the forest there in Janastan. "What happened to you? This person dared to insult me. You are all the brothers and associates of my brother who's so powerful, Ravan. You should immediately avenge me." Those 14,000 Rakshasas immediately came and they began to attack Ram and Lakshman. But like short work, Ram and Lakshman immediately dispatched with 13,999 of them. Mukunda, 13,990, you told me there were 14,000? Hold on to this thought. Just write this down somewhere. 13,999, there were 14,000. That means there's one person left. Just keep this note. Now, after that, Surpanaka runs back to Lanka. There she goes to her brother. Her brother looks at her face and, "What happened to you? What mischief did you get into?" Said, "Listen, brother, one very impudent prince of the Solar Dynasty had nerve to disfigure me. He ordered his brother, and his brother disfigured me. You should immediately avenge me." So Ravan knows Surpanaka can get into mischief. So he said, "Listen, your life was spared. Calm down. This is not that big of a deal." So he said, "Oh, my brother, actually, I was not there on my behalf. I went to him only on your behalf." So Ravan said, "What do you mean?" "With this prince, there was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. She began to describe from head to toe the beauty of Sita. I only went there to take this woman and bring her to you." So then Ravan's ears perked up. So then Ravan was thinking, oh. So he started scheming how he would be able to get Sita, having heard about her beauty. So now, it's unavoidable to get into these sections. I'm going to try to speed up so I don't go over. So now, Ravan makes a plan to kidnap Sita. There's many things that happen in between. So while Ram and Sita, Lakshmana are in one part of the forest, at that time, Marichi, you remember Marichi, who was shot by the arrow originally, went all the way to Lanka, became a servant of Ravana. He was told by Ravana, listen, I have a plan. I want you to kidnap this Sita. What I want you to do is make a distraction. So take the form of a golden deer and attract the attention of Sita. This way I'll have an opportunity to go in and without having to fight, because obviously this prince is very powerful, but without having to fight, I can kidnap Sita. So at that time, Marichi told Ravana, listen, I've already been through this. I have first-hand experience. This is not somebody to play with. You understand? Therefore, I'm not really inclined to do this. So then Ravana gave ultimatum. Listen, do you want to do what I'm ordering to do, or do you want to fight me now? So Marichi was put into a very difficult situation. So he thought, listen, the last time Ram spared my life, perhaps he'll be judicious again. Whereas Ravana, being of the nature he is, he may kill me immediately. So he agreed, and he took the form of a golden deer. He went into the place there where Sita, Lakshmana, and Ram were camped out. And he would run through the forest enough to flash his golden fleece. And when Sita saw it, she asked Ram, oh, Ram, did you see that? So Ram told, what did you see? I saw the most beautiful golden deer. Please, you go and bring that deer to me. I want to keep as a pet. Or at least you should bring that golden skin, and we'll have it here for our comfort. So Ram said, I'm not sure. This seems suspicious. So then Sita pleaded, and Ram said, okay, Lakshman, you'll stay here. Do not move. You'll guard Sita. So Ram went, and sure enough, when he got to Marichi, he realized this was that same demon, so Ram killed him this time. But as he was dying, Marichi called out, oh, Lakshman, Lakshman, help me, help me. So then Lakshman was standing guard, not paying attention. Sita said, did you hear that? Your brother is in distress. You should go immediately and help him. Lakshman said, there's no way. My brothers can't be in distress. You understand? This is some ploy, some trick, right? My brother is not in distress. Lakshman, I would have never thought that you would think, oh, maybe this is a good time for me. If Ram is killed, I will be here alone with Sita. This was so painful to the heart of Lakshman that he could not tolerate it. He said, how can you say such a thing? The entire time that I've been with you, right? I've never even looked above your nupura. Nupura means an ankle belly. I've never seen above your nupura. Whenever I've come to you, I come to you with my head down, hands folded, as the wife of my elder brother. How can you say such a thing? Now, previously also, Sita had created a problem with Lakshman. Lakshman formerly used to massage the feet of Lord Rama. And every night he would get his joy by massaging Ram until he fell asleep. But when Ram got married, Sita took over that duty. So Lakshman said, well, listen, can we partly share? Can we? So Sita was saying, how is it possible? This is the duty of a wife. So then Sumanta came and he reconciled things. He said, listen, according to Dharma, it is the duty of a wife to serve a husband in the antapur, means in the inner chamber. So Lakshman, you can do all the services to your brother outside of the home, and Sita will have the right to do services inside the home. So that was the first thing. Now she's insinuating that he has some lusty desire towards her. So this way, Lakshman became very, very angry, and he drew one circle. Now, in Valmiki Ramayana, this is not there. But in Ramcharitmanas and in many other places, this what's called Lakshman Rekha. Rekha means a line, it is written. Our Gurudev is also ascribed to this in his katha, so I'm also telling. It's not there in any particular verse of Valmiki's Ramayana. But all other sadhus like Tulsidas, Ramcharitmanas, and many others, Kalidas, they've also told. So he told, don't cross this line. He encircled her and said, don't cross this line. He immediately went, and as soon as he got there, he realized that Marichi had been killed. And so as Lakshman and Ram were coming back, before that, Ravana came there and he told, oh, Bhikshan Bhavatam Dehi. So Bhikshan Bhavatam Dehi, oh, please give me a donation. So Sita thought, oh, this is a sadhu, because Ravana came dressed as a sannyasi. So Sita said, oh, listen. And as she got ready to give a donation of some fruits, she realized about the line. Oh, I've been ordered by my brother-in-law not to cross this line. So again, he said, listen, but it's also Dharma that if any sadhu should come and he asks you for something, you should give it. So then he said, well, how will we solve this? Because you don't want me to leave angry. So Sita tried again to go beyond the line, and that time a fire came up. So she said, oh, the power invested in this, Rekha, Lakshmana is very powerful. How can I go beyond this? So she said then, listen, woman, if you do not give me a donation, I will curse that your husband should die. And as soon as Sita heard that, Sita's mood of love for her husband was that even if I die in the fire, I will do so in order to save my husband. Because of her Dharma Patya, the degree of her love, the line did not produce the fire a second time. And therefore, when she stuck her hand out to give the donation, Ravana grabbed her and took off into the sky. When he took off into the sky, a very dear servant of Ram named Jatayu, he saw what was happening and immediately came to fight with Ravana. But Ravana ultimately killed him. There's so many pastimes. But yeah, I have to speed up. I'm sorry. So at that time, Ravana took her and went off. When Sita was flying, she dropped some of her jewelry, and it fell in a place called Kishkinda. Kishkinda is where Sugriva and Hanuman and other monkey warriors were living. So when Ram and Lakshmana then began to search for her, I'm making a very long story short, they came to Kishkinda, and when they got there, they asked, have you seen what happened? No, first they went to Jatayu, and Ram gives Jatayu moksha, and he describes that he saw Ravana take Sita. Then they get to Kishkinda, and Sugriva tells, listen, we don't know about any kidnapping, but we did find a strange thing. We found a bundle full of female jewelry. Can you recognize it? Ram's eyes were so full of tears, he couldn't see it. So he asked Ram to identify it. And Ram said, oh my Lord, I also have never looked above the ankles of Sita. So then they found, Lakshmana, I'm sorry. I've never looked above the ankles of Sita. So then they showed the Nupur. He said, yes, I've seen the Nupur of Sita. So he asked Sugriva and Hanuman and others to help him. This is how the alliance between Hanuman and Sugriva all come. Ram fulfills one condition of Sugriva to allow him to be restored to the throne and kill his brother Bali. So many pastimes, we can't go there. So now I want to do something else. I want to go back to the very beginning because Ram will return to Ayodhya. And now when Ram returns to Ayodhya after 14 years, he's 39 years old. In that 39th year, they lived 2 years very peacefully in Ayodhya. So in Ram's 41st year, they are living in Ayodhya peacefully, and all of the people of Ayodhya had begged to see the sweet pastimes that took place while they were banished in the forest. So Ram commissioned a great artist to come and make an art museum depicting all of their pastimes while they were gone for 14 years. Lakshmana and Ram and Sita would describe the pastime, the artist would put it into painting or sculpture, and in this way they created a whole museum. All of the different Ayodhya Vasis were to come and look at all these pastimes. Before it opened officially, one minister came there and he said, the people are very anxious to see the museum. So Ram said, yes, just now we're walking through for the first time to see ourselves. So as Sita was walking from one painting to another, she came across the painting of the ashram of Valmiki Rishi. Her heart immediately opened up and she remembered the sweetness of the environment of that ashram. It's at this time that she's now pregnant with love and Kush. So if Ram was 39 years old, she's 6 years younger, that means she was pregnant with love and Kush at 33. You understand? So when looking at the painting, she thought, though this Ayodhya city is very wonderful, how wonderful it would be to raise my children in the beauty of a pristine natural environment like the ashram of Valmiki Muni. He lived very near the Ganga River, and there's a tributary of the Ganga called Tamasa, which is like a tributary of the Ganga, very sweet water, very beautiful atmosphere. So she was meditating, it would be such a wonderful place to raise my children. Just at that time, Vashishta Rishi sent another minister there who came to Ram and whispered in his ear, a direct instruction from Vashishta Muni. If Sita will ask you for anything right now, you should grant her that boon. At the same time, another minister comes. He approaches Lakshmana and he tells, listen, I was wandering throughout the kingdom, getting a pulse on how the people feel. I passed the home of one Dobiwala. Dobiwala means a washerman. And when I passed this house, I heard him chastising his wife. His wife had left his home, went to her paternal home and spent the night there and returned the next day. And the husband chastised, listen, do you think I'm like Lord Ram, that you could leave my home and come back the next day? I am not like this Lord Ram. So the minister told, listen, I've heard this rumbling in the kingdom. So Ram should do something immediately to quell it so that there's no doubt about the arrangement of your Dharma. So Ram at that time, combined with the instruction from Vaishishta Rishi, combined with hearing Sita say how beautiful it would be to raise her children in the ashram of Valmiki, he called Lakshmana and told him, tomorrow morning, take Sita to the ashram of Valmiki Rishi, very nearby, and leave her there. So Lakshmana said, what? How can you ask to do this? He said, listen, you have to trust me, my brother. So Lakshman, he was in his heart very distraught. But he told Sita, tomorrow, we'll go for a ride to the forest. So Sita was very happy. She packed a picnic basket, did so many things. She got on the chariot with Lakshman. And the chariot driver, they drove out into the forest. And very near the ashram of Valmiki Rishi, Sita remembered this atmosphere. She said, oh, this is a very beautiful place, Lakshman. Do you not remember? Let me get down and pick some flowers here. She got down to pick some flowers, and she turned to look at Lakshman, and Lakshman's head was bowed down. Lakshman, are you not inspired, remembering all of the sweetness of what happened here? Lakshman began to shed tears. At that time, Sita's intuition told something is wrong. Tell me, my brother, is it that I offended you by not allowing you to do services in our home? Or was it that I made a worse offense to you by accusing you of desiring me? Tell me, my brother, what did I do to offend you? And Lakshman could not reply. Then Sita said, oh, is it that you've received an order from your brother regarding me? So then by her intuition, she understood the whole thing. Because when she was in Lanka, Ram had made her go through a fire to prove her chastity. So now she knew, because she's politically astute, someone must have mentioned something in the kingdom. Ram, under the influence of needing to protect Dharma, has now gone to the extreme where he's asked Lakshman to banish me to the forest. He said, listen, Lakshman, dry your tears. I should be the one crying. I want you to dry your tears. I'm only requesting that you ask your brother one question. Is it he can take consultation from Vaishishta and Sumanta? Ask him, is it actually Dharma to abandon your pregnant wife in the forest? Lakshman, you can take your go now. You can go now. Lakshman was devastated. He made a vow at that time. Any incarnation after this, I will never come as the younger brother. Therefore, Lakshman in Krishna Leela becomes Balaram. In Gaur Leela, he becomes Vishwarup. He vowed, I will never become the younger brother again and have to be obedient to such strong orders. Valmiki Rishi, he comes and he sees Sita there. And he says, oh, young lady, pregnant. Why are you here? So then Sita, she says, oh, I've been abandoned here by my husband, so forth, so on. Says, oh, you cannot be like this. He takes her back to his ashram and he gives her a place in his ashram. Now, remember, I told that Valmiki was born from Bhumi Karana, or the heirs of Bhumi. So Sita was also born from the earth. So Valmiki Rishi is like an elder brother to Sita in that way. So there's no discord in her taking shelter and staying as a woman in the ashram of Valmiki Rishi. Plus, there were other female servants that lived not far in the ashram, and she lived among them. She received the name Vana Devi. You understand? They didn't call her Sita because they didn't want that it would be known that she was the wife of Lord Rama. So eventually she gave birth to two sons, Love and Kush. Now, here's a very interesting thing. Once when Valmiki Rishi, and we're going to begin to end here, once when Valmiki Rishi was taking a walk with one disciple named Bharadwaj, they came, and while they were walking, Narada Rishi appeared before them. And when Narada Rishi came before them, he took advantage And he said, listen, Nard, I want to ask you a question. I've often heard that there is perfection in the actual form of a human being, but I've never seen. So he asked this question. Kanu ashmin sampratam loke gunavam ka charaviryavan dhamagya cha kritagya cha satyavakyo dhridavrita. I'm only going to cite one verse, but there are 4 verses here. 4 qualities are mentioned in each verse, totaling 16 qualities. So he asked to Narada Muni, can you please tell me, is there anyone who is living right now who has these 16 qualities? Ko Ashmin, Samprata means now. Ashmin Loke, in this world, who's living right now, who has all 16 qualities of a perfect person. Narada Muni didn't answer him right away. Narada Muni closed his eyes, began to meditate. Narada Muni's heart became overwhelmed. He said, listen, Valmiki. Ishvaku Vangsha Prabhavo Namo Nama Janahi Shutaha Niyata Atma Mahaviryo Dyutimam Drittaman Vasi. So he said, listen, that person who was born in Ishvaku dynasty named Lord Ram, a name that is worthy to be known and remembered and recited. That person is a person who has all 16 qualities that you inquired about. Valmiki's mind was blown. Listen, Nard, you don't know. Just now, not too long ago, the person you're telling me had 16 perfect qualities, dropped off his pregnant wife at my ashram. I'm bewildered. Can you tell me how this person has 16 qualities? So Nard told, listen, you don't understand, Valmiki. All of these things are a Leela of that actual Bhagavan who's descended to this world as Lord Ram. How is this possible? Tell me. So he begins to go through the 16 qualities and describe a pastime of Ram in relation to each one to prove that he has these qualities. One of the qualities that he has is Dridavrat. Dridavrat means a person who's determined to always carry out their vow. Now remember that number, 13,999? Okay, everybody bring that number back up. So he tells a pastime. This Ram, when he was a young boy, he was requested by Vishwamuni to clear all of the demons away. And when he became old and he was banished to the forest, there were 14,000 Rakshasas who attacked him. He killed 13,999 and one of them escaped. So then he said, well, if one escaped, how would that prove that he is Dridhavrata? He said, very shortly you will realize it. And Narada Muni walked away. So now Valmiki's even more astounded. I don't understand. As he was walking back to his ashram, he looked up in one tree and he saw 2 Karuntra birds. They're very beautiful birds. And the quality of the Karuntra bird is that they're always male and female and they're inseparable. Just as he was looking at the Karuntra birds and they were about to mate, an arrow whizzed past the air and struck the male Karuntra bird and it fell to the ground. Piteously, the female Karuntra bird began to cry out, oh, alas, alas. And the male Karuntra bird lay there and died. Immediately, as soon as Valmiki Rishi saw this and he saw one hunter there, he turned and he said, Ma nishada pratishtaham tama agama shashvati sama yat karunancha maitunani ekam avarakam moitam. Oh, hunter, you should forever live in infamy as you perform such a cruel act as to kill the male Karuntra bird while he was absorbed in the mating with his female. Immediately when he made this curse, the curse came out in a particular meter called Anustup Chandan, right? This particular meter. And it's the meter which is the central of much poetry. So each of the feelings that he felt while he was reciting this came out in a particular syllable. So that meter became the basis under which the Ramayana would be written. So now Valmiki went back to his ashram and he sat and he thought, listen, Bharadraj, oh my disciple, why did I become so angry? I've never had this anger come before me before. Hunters do these sort of things. This is their nature. Let me go. I will find that hunter, right? I will apologize and I'll remove the curse I gave him, that he'll live in infamy forever and ever. So when he went back to the place where that Karuntra bird was, he didn't see the bird, he didn't see the female bird, he didn't even see the tree, and he didn't see the hunter. So now he's completely bewildered. Immediately while he was standing there in bewilderment, Lord Rama came with his two wives, Saraswati and Savitri or Gayatri. They appeared before Valmiki. Valmiki closed his hands, offered Dandavat Pranam, said, "Oh, Brahmaji, why are you here?" He said, "I wanted to enlighten you on what it is that Nard told you." So he said, "What do you mean?" He said that hunter that you saw, it was not an ordinary hunter. That itself was Lord Ram in the guise of a hunter. So Valmiki's heart immediately broke. Narada told me that this is actually Bhagavan, the most perfect person, and you mean I've cursed Bhagavan? So then Saraswati Devi, she stepped forward and said, "Oh no, you could not curse the Lord. You're a great devotee. Listen carefully. Ma nishada pratishtaham. Pratishta means great fame, right? Great pride and great fame. Ma means to stop, but Ma also means Mother Lakshmi. So he's saying Mother Lakshmi, Nishada, who always resides on the chest of the Lord, right? You, in service to that Lakshmi and that Narayan, did the service of establishing their glories in writing. So you become known forever throughout time as that person who glorified the lovebirds Sita and Ram. So she turned his words into a great poem glorifying Sita and Ram. You understand? So he said, listen, but how is he Dhridavrata that Nard told me? He said that hunter was Ram. The male Karuntra bird that you saw, his name was Akampana. He was the 14,000th of those 13,999. He escaped. He took the form of a bird. Ram tracked him down all these years. When he found him here, he took the form of a hunter and Dhridavrata. So now Valmiki was, Ram is perfect. But then he asked him, listen, I have not seen the early Leelas of Lord Ram. I only remember Ram coming to my ashram, and now that he's dropped Sita, how will I know the pastimes of Ram? So Brahma said, I'm giving you one benediction. That rahasyam darakaranam, that when you look at your hand, dara means to hold, the rahasya of all of Ram's Leela will appear in your hand just like a TV screen. Then he said, but how will I find the ability to write up inspired by the same poetry I recited accidentally? Saraswati said, I will appear on the tip of your pen, and everything you write will come in the same fashion of poetry with what you recited this beautiful, beautiful verse. He said, how will I become free from the offense of having offended Bhagavan? Savitri told, listen, you actually did not offend. Savitri also means Gayatri. I will appear at the first letter of each of the 24,000 verses that you write. I will appear at the first letter of each of those. So in the first letter verse, leading up to 1,000, then 2,000, the first verse, 3,000, the first verse. If you count them, they're 24,000. So there are 24 letters in the Gayatri mantra. So the Gayatri appears in the Ramayana secretly in the first letter of each 1,000 of the verses. And in this way, it gives meditation that if anybody will study the Ramayana, then by that Gayatri, they will realize the glories of Lord Ram. More so, you will realize how Ram is actually Krishna, and this Ram Leela will take you into Krishna Leela. You understand? So I can't go anymore because we're really, really late. I'm apologizing. But the glories of Lord Ram are so expensive. My Gurudev used to cry reciting these pastimes. So I'll take one or two questions because I don't want to hold the devotees in Cleveland. They have a program today, and I don't want them to be late. Jai Shri Ram Chandra, Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai. Shri Ram Navami ki Jai. All right, any questions, comments? I saw a hand go up.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Mhm.
Jai, 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 Jai. You are just so magnificent. Thank you so very much for sharing that wonderful, beautiful pastime. And the way you expressed it just touched my heart. I was in tears. So, but my question is,
Mhm.
Ram told Kaikeyi when he was 2 or 4 years old to
Yes,
make him a promise.
yes,
So she held up that Dharma then. She actually delivered the request. So that was designed already to do just that,
yes. But in
right?
but in the Leela, that was a promise made only between Kaikeyi and Ram. No one else knew of that. So she accepted the burden,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because she thought Ram was only a small boy just speaking frivolously. I said that wrong. He was speaking like a child. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to pass, she did not even remember it. So it's only by the influence of Manthara that she acted. So all
Jai.
of the different persons considered she acted under the influence of Manthara. They held her in ill repute. Her own son disowned her, everything. But Guru Dev said, for the Leela of Lord Ram, she bore that burden. Therefore, she
Yes.
should be glorified.
Hari Hari Bo, Hare Krishna. Jai.
Yeah.
Every time you recite the Ramayana, you share something glorious. Thank you so much. Haribo.
What I've heard from my Guru and our Guru Vargas, everything is the mercy of my Guru Dev.
Jai Hari Hari.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, Paponda, can we continue the things you left out tomorrow?
On Monday, yeah, some things we can speak tomorrow
Okay.
on the regular phone conference. Ganga, you had a question?
No, I was going to bring that point out that Isho brought up. So you
Okay.
answered it. Thank you.
Mhm. Everything happens by the will of the Lord. But in the Leela, we should be absorbed in the Leela itself and the moods in that Leela. So we won't cover the moods of the Leela by expressing the ultimate will of Bhagavan.
Mm.
You understand? Because Ram is not thinking he's Bhagavan. He's thinking, I am the Prince of Ayodhya, etc., etc. Understand? Husband of Sita. Of course, Ram Leela is the prequel to Krishna Leela. So many of the pastimes that are in Ram Leela will take their fruit in Krishna Leela. Like the desire to live in the forest will become permanent in Krishna's Leela because Krishna will be born and live among Vrindavan forest. The separation of Sita and Ram, right, when Sita is kidnapped, is a permanent feature of Krishna and Radhika's separation mood, like when Krishna goes to Mathura and Dwarka. So many of the seeds in Ram Leela are fructified in Krishna Leela. And then the seeds of Krishna Leela are fully fructified in Gaur Leela. Yes, sweetie.
Why did Mother Bhumi allow her daughter Sita to, I guess,
Into the earth?
yeah, why did she, yeah,
So
why did she abandon her duties as a mother?
Yeah, so two things. One, my wife is asking, what at the end of the Ramayana, then Ram will ask that Sita should go through the fire again. It's called Agni Pariksha. So Sita, because she's already gone through this once in Lanka, she will declare that if I've been chaste, that I've never even thought of any other man, then, O Mother Bhumi, if I am in fact fully chaste, then open up and take me into your bosom. Now, there's an important thing here. One is that Ravana never touched the original Sita. When the fire came up and Sita went through that fire, even though it didn't appear the second time, Agni Dev then took the original Sita when the fire manifested and took her to his abode and kept her with his wife Swaha. The Sita that was kidnapped by Ravana is called Maya Sita. So he never kidnapped the original Sita. When Ram came there, there's many nuances. I can't go because again, it'll extend our time. When he asked Sita to walk through the fire to prove her chastity, The real Sita came through the fire and the false Sita was burnt in the fire. But now he's asking her to do it again, right? Because what will happen is Love and Kush will learn the Ramayana, they will go to Ayodhya, they'll recite the Ramayana, they'll realize that actually these two sons are the sons of Ram and so forth. So eventually they'll send for Sita. So everyone comes to Ayodhya near the end. Ram says, listen, once and for all, to prove her chastity, everyone will do the Agni Pariksha again. But Sita says, no, we'll do this Agni Pariksha, but if I've been chased, may Mother Earth, my mother, take me back. So sure enough, Mother Earth takes her back. So Ram becomes devastated and he threatens to shoot an arrow and rend the earth asunder. But in the long run, he becomes devastated. Two kinds of narratives are given near the end. One that on a Vaikuntha airplane, all the Ayodhya-vasis go back to the eternal abode of Ayodhya. Another one is that they all enter the Sarayu River and a plane comes then and takes them all back to the eternal abode of Ayodhya. Now, therefore, another seed is planted in Krishna Leela. Who is it that goes with the demigods to the ocean of milk to ask Krishna to make his appearance? When all the demigods go to ask Krishna to appear in this world, who accompanies her?
The cow, Mother Bhumi, right?
She's Mother Bhumi, but why does she take the form of a cow?
I don't know. I can speculate, but I won't.
Because in Ram Leela, the last pastime with her is that she took Sita. So when she shows up to appeal to Krishna to come, she takes a form that's very dear to Krishna to appease him.
But that wasn't my question.
Okay, what was your question?
My question was why in the first place did Mother Bhumi give up her daughter Sita to be raised by Janak and Sunayana?
No. Janak Maharaj and Sunayana, the mother and father Sita, she didn't give up her daughter. He found her in a field. So Sita's the eternal consort. She just chose to make her appearance like that. Just like Radhika sometimes is found by Maharaj, Rishabhanu Maharaj, right in the Kund near Raval. Understand? So this is just how she's making an appearance. So while he was plowing the field for yajna, the tip of the plow revealed this beautiful box, and in that box was Sita. That's how she got the name Sita. Mm-hmm. Okay, we have to end here. So I will again sing the Ramayana Arati a little bit, and then we'll end with that. Arati Sri Ram Mayan Ji ki Kirit Kolit Lalit Siyapi ki Gavata Brahmadi Muni Narada Valmiki Vigyan Bishasharad Sukha Sanakari Seishora Sarad Bani Pavana Sutta Kitini ki Arati Sri Ram Mayan Ji ki Kirita Lalvi Siyapi ki Jaya Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman Lakshman Hanuman, Jai Lakshman Hanuman, Jai Sri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai, Sri Ramayana Katha ki Jai, Sri Valmiki Rishi ki Jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Jai Shri Hari Hari Bol.
Dhanyavad.
Hari Bol.
Jai
Jai
Hari Bol.
Krishna.
Jai Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Haribo, Jai Nabat.
Jai.
Dhanyavad.